Okay, hi everyone. Hi. Thank you for coming tonight. Before we get started, I just have one announcement to make. Many of you are familiar that there's a lot of new information starting to come out about the subject of free energy devices and so forth, and we have a guest with us tonight who is down from Canada to promote some information on free energy. There is this book by Gene Manning, who is here with us tonight. Everyone say hi, Gene. So we're just making an announcement that if whoever is interested in finding out more about this and would like to access this book, which I'm assuming will be available through the bookstore, then by all means, after the session tonight, please go ahead and contact Jean here, who will be around for a while, and she can fill you in on this important information. So thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you.
And here it is. Yes, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, they can find out about the book through the store then if you disappear. Oh, well, no, it doesn't matter. Whatever. Yeah. Okay. I'll figure it out. All right. Thanks a lot. How many people are here for the first time tonight? A few of you. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming. You're lying. Oh, okay. Well, first time to a Bashar session. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Literal. Okay. I sit corrected. Thank you. All right. For the new people, you'll catch on pretty quickly how this goes. I will go into the altered state. Bashar will come through. He will talk about something for a few moments. But basically, the majority of the session is going to be turned over to you for questions and answers. So if you have something that you do want to ask that's important to you, by all means, don't hesitate to do so. You'll see that this happens very informally. You just, when he gives it to you for questions, just say out loud, Bashar. He will point at you in whatever order he feels it's important. And then what we have is a remote mic. So we are taping everything. So please, if you do have a question, if he does call on you, just wait a minute until the mic is handed to you so that we can get the question clearly and loudly on the tape. And then by all means, just engage him in an informal dialogue. It's as simple as that. Anyone have questions about procedures or anything before we start so they can participate more clearly? Okay. Again, thanks for coming, and have a good time. See you later. I say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? Once again, we take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for allowing us to communicate through this particular gateway at this time to your civilization. Once again, each and every time, our civilization is afforded an opportunity to communicate with you in this way. It opens up our understanding of the universe by experiencing through each and every one of your unique perspectives that many more ways that the infinite has of expressing itself. So we thank you for this gift. We would like to begin this transmission this day of your time with a subject that we would like to entitle Etheric Fauna and the Dragon. The idea being to understand that in what you call the astral realms and the etheric realms, these levels, these dimensions of reality are just as populated as your dimension with forms of consciousness that may not always have a physiological counterpart. There are just as many configurations of flora and fauna in the astral and etheric realms as there are in the physiological realm. Now, anything that is physiological will have, to some degree, an astral and etheric counterpart, but not everything that is etheric will always manifest itself or solidify a version of itself in physical reality. So in many ways, the idea of the etheric dimensions, the astral levels, in many ways, they will contain things that you do not experience in physical reality as a manifestation of life. Though sometimes there may be temporary, momentary projections and or manifestations of etheric life in physical reality that then may give rise to mythologies and legends and memories of certain creatures and beings and so forth, and then they may again disappear back into the etheric levels, raise their vibrations back up to the etheric realm, and so in a sense seem to disappear from physical reality, again giving rise to the mysteriousness of these reports, of these so-called mythologies and legends that individuals know they have perceived, but then cannot, quote-unquote, prove the existence of, since they no longer manifest in physiological terms. The idea of the being, of the level of consciousness that you have referred to in your past as the dragon is one such example. It exists as an etheric expression. It, in a sense, inhabits or lives in the lower astral and etheric realms, only rarely pushing itself for a variety of reasons into physiological reality. Now, of course, there were times in what you call your ancient history where conditions were more conducive, literally more conductive, for these kinds of beings to be able to manifest in physiological terms for longer periods of time than they may be capable of doing now. Although now, in your physical reality, times are changing and coming back around to when more and more etheric fauna has more ability, more likelihood, more of a conducive atmosphere because of the changes going on in your collective consciousness to be able to perhaps be perceivable, to manifest in physiological reality as they used to long ago. And so it may be that more and more often people on your planet will begin to perceive different kinds of interactions, different kinds of beings, or at least be capable of sensing the existence of these beings in a more realistic way, so to speak, because the veils are becoming thin between physiological, astral, and etheric reality. And what you call different manifestations of spirit and other kinds of phenomenology, such as crop circles, are an indication that things that heretofore were mostly only in the domain of the astral and etheric realms are now more capable of becoming manifested, or at least capable of manifesting an aspect of themselves in physiological reality for your perception, for your interaction, as you so desire. Now, the dragon, in specific terms, symbolically, and to some degree literally, is a manifestation of an aspect of the collective consciousness of your realm, of your dimension, of your people, of your intelligence. It is connected to many other things as well in the idea of your past journey, in the idea of where the spirits of that which is now human also connect to and come from, but as a manifestation of a being in that particular format that you call the shape of the dragon, there is now ability to understand that this being represents the core, very deep, ancient core of humanity's psychic wisdom and its ability to express itself in a multitude of ways, even within each individual. In that each individual contains a multitude of personality aspects and can express the self as an aspect of the infinite in a multitude of ways. This is why many of the more ancient symbols of dragons express themselves or are represented by multi-headed dragons, what you call the Hydra, with many heads. This was an expression and a representation that the core, autonomous, archetypal being of the dragon was representative of many different levels of your being and capable of expressing itself in many different ways, even within one individual, of presenting many faces. In that context, you will find that now that you are gaining more insight, more understanding of your multitudinous personalities within each and every being, you can begin to tap back into that core power, that ancient power that is representative, in fact, of your of your fullest expression of power in physiological reality. That is what the dragon generally and most simply symbolizes, your fullest expression of power in physical reality. The idea is also that because it is ancient, it expresses and represents the initial inception of humanity into physical reality, of spirit into physical reality in the earth plane. That is why it is represented by that kind of creature, in that the first expression or first level of expressiveness of your physicality in terms of your ability to think, your ability to perceive and interact in physical reality, in the brain is represented by what you often refer to as the reptilian brain, the primitive, simple brain. The dragon is representative of this level as far as your collective intelligence is concerned. In other words, the combination of all of your reptilian level of the brain combines to form the level you call the dragon. And so when you tap into the dragon, you are tapping into the most original, most essential, most primitive, but not in a negative sense, level of your initial inception as spirit collectively into physical reality. And thus, when you tap into that, can express that initial recognition and realization and connection to all the things of nature, of physical reality, and all the things of astral realms, and all the things of etheric realms and spirit realms that will allow you to reclaim, in a sense, your grounded power, your ability to function with conviction and commitment in the way that you recognize the power of the dragon to represent. Also, you will recognize that to some degree now in this day and age, one of the manifestations of your ability to allow the etheric realm to manifest itself more concretely will be some of the interactions that many of you are now having with what you perceive as a reptilian species. This is simply a reflection of another aspect of the collective humanity and all the connections you have with other beings that all together, you, the Greys, the Reptilians, many others, that all together, I would ask you to understand, are different faces and different aspects of one larger intelligence. Start to look at yourselves in this way as one of the heads of the Hydra, and you will begin to also be able to trace back down the necks to the body your connection and your relationship not only to all of yourselves, but to many of the other beings in creation that play their part in the overall history that you all share going back many, many millennia into the past and even unto other worlds and other civilizations. This is the time of the expression of that power, of the expression of becoming the dragon, the mage, the wizard, the sorcerer, so on and so forth, and allowing yourself to know that etheric fauna, astral fauna, astral inhabitants, etheric inhabitants, you all have counterparts there. You all individually and collectively can connect back to those levels and reclaim the overall connection that you have, not only to yourself as an individual in those levels, but to the collective whole in those levels. For in those levels, and especially in the etheric, there are fewer barriers and fewer separations, and it is easier by going to that level to connect to the totality of humanity, the totality of intelligence that expresses itself in any form of civilization, in any form of discrete dimensionality. To understand your connection to it, to understand how to relate to it, and to understand how to bring through and express that connection where it is applicable and germane for your present experience of the physical earth domain. Let all that sink in. Remember that you are hearing this also on many different levels. So even if some of this does not make sense to your outer mentality physically, it makes sense to your being on a resonant level, and when you simply begin to allow yourself to identify with the concept of the dragon as an etheric representation of the collective wisdom of all of your kind and your innate power and ability to express and claim that power, you will begin to get the point, and you will begin to feel the fire that lights you up inside, which is your own internal light, your own internal power of creative expression. We thank you for allowing us to represent this idea in this way to you this day of your time. Once again, in return for the gift that you are giving to us and our civilization, we ask now, in what way may I and my world be of service to you?
Bashar?
You! Good day.
Hi, Bashar. A few things. First of all, I showed Daryl some pictures that were given to me that purport to have an authentic ray. One of the pictures, can you tell me if that is an authentic ray?
It is a relatively authentic representation of a gray. It is not a photo of an actual gray.
Did this person do it from man-made materials that he just or she just replicated it based on their own experiences?
Yes.
And I know you don't like to give percentages of accuracy, but just hoping you might change your mind for this moment.
Do you mean percentage of accuracy in the representation?
Yes.
It is very accurate according to one particular species of gray. In that sense, yes.
Is that the species I'm working with?
Similar. You have worked with this kind from time to time, though it is not representative of the main group that you have experienced, but it is representative of an offshoot that you do experience and encounter and interact with from time to time, yes.
And how does it differ physiologically from the group I work with?
It is a bit taller.
Oh, all right. And he also showed. I also showed Daryl a picture of an alien baby, an infant.
That is a fabrication.
And it's not based on any reality?
No.
Okay. I've noticed some new bruises this week, in the last few days.
Yes.
And it was interesting because two of them, I saw two. They look like fingerprints on the same thigh that I always get it on. And then the next day I noticed a third one that seems to form a triangle. Were these two different abductions?
We will not comment on this at this time.
Okay. Can I ask about the red triangle on my outer thigh?
No.
All right. The other thing I wanted to ask about is if I'm having any contacts with reptilians.
You have witnessed a few now and then in some of the interactions. We perceive in your energy field that there have been now and then a few closer interactions for various reasons, but they were minimal in time span. You are not in any particular concrete nor lasting way having direct contact or interaction with them, except peripherally in the background.
Okay. So I feel that I'm working very strongly recently with the Greys, and that this is probably going to go on.
Yes.
The other thing is that I'm excited because I was just given a job opportunity to go work in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. I'm leaving,
all right.
I'm leaving this week. And
all right, goodbye.
Thank you. And I have a few feelings about it. One is that it's a new adventure, and I always like new adventures.
All right.
And I was talking with Molly before about scuba diving, and it's something that interests me because it relates to the screenplay that I'm working on now.
All right.
And it seems like the perfect thing to do while you're there.
All right, if you say so.
But I'm not a good swimmer. And I realized, too, that part of my fear about it might be because the Greys might have done experiments with me where I was forced to breathe underwater.
This is a common idea for the idea of shifting the dimensional frequencies within an individual. They will be placed within and immersed within a very thick liquid that will allow there to be both a buffering for the transition and also an inducement of the transition. And sometimes individuals on your planet will experience a little bit of fear as a subliminal memory of having been immersed in a liquid and forced to breathe therein. Yes?
So have I undergone those experiments?
Yes.
Okay, so that my fear is real.
They are not experiments. They are transitions.
Ah, all right. Have I done this often?
You have done it.
And
often is a relative term.
So that then scuba diving might be a good way for me to process that fear? Or
if you think so.
Okay.
But that's up to you.
All right. The other thing
It is, of course, different than simply the act of swimming. And in that sense, you may find that even though individuals on your planet may have some degree of discomfort with the concept of swimming, the concept of, as you call it, scuba diving, is experienced quite differently.
So then I don't have to worry about my swimming prowess.
Well, you don't have to worry about anything. But the idea, again, is that they are not really that similar because you are given, in a sense, or outfitted with certain gear that will make it easier for you. And of course, since, and again, you are breathing, you do not have to really, quote-unquote, worry about drowning.
Okay.
About not being able to stay on the surface, since the whole point is to go beneath the surface.
Right.
And you have a different focus. Not to, in any way, shape, or form, set up anything in your mind, but most people, if they are going to have any kind of difficulty based on what they believe to be the experiences of their challenges, would not so much have the fear of drowning, but the idea perhaps of a more claustrophobic challenge to deal with. Though, again, this may or may not be germane for you.
Okay. Also, I've been listening to some tapes that, and Dr. Stephen Greer claims that when he spoke, that he was asked a question by Art Bell as to why, for instance, President Carter would not disclose about his connections, or why there was no, he would not release to the public information about alien contact.
Many of your government officials, not only in your own country, are not, in that sense, willing to disclose all the information that they know.
Right, and I want to know why not.
For a variety of reasons. Number one, it has been presented to them that such disclosure would cause certain kinds of socioeconomic disorder. That is one of the primary reasons they have been given. We will not go into all the other reasons now. But one of the other reasons has to do with the concept of timing and the ability to help co-direct the direction that these things, these evolutions, these interactions are going in so that there can, in a sense, be a transition and a buffering in the transition to allow the direction in which things are moving to be assimilated as best as possible among the general population. Do you understand?
Yeah, but it doesn't seem as if it's moving at all. I mean, perhaps it is under beyond.
If it were not moving, we would not be having this conversation.
Okay, so it's just not as fast as I'd like to see it then.
It may also be that you are not clear on what it is to look for.
All right. So I guess the preponderance of media attention on the concept is part of that acceleration.
Yes, to some degree, yes.
Okay.
For again, the things that appear in your media are things that have already been decided in the collective consciousness are all right to look at. It is not the other way around that the appearance in the media spurs these recognitions in the collective consciousness, but that the collective consciousness has already decided this is something it can handle, and therefore it's all right to allow it to appear and be reflected by the media.
Well, but it's always a negative connotation that they give.
That is not true.
All right. Well, it just seems more...
Do your homework.
All right.
It is not true.
Okay. Well, I hope that we still get to communicate in this manner when I return, Bashar.
Why do you hope this?
Because I really enjoy these sessions.
So, what has that got to do with hoping that it continues in the same way?
Because I know that it may be ending soon in this capacity.
It will always only be changing.
Okay.
Nothing in that sense ever ends, even though it may not be in the same format. But again, do you not remember that through these formats we have always said that you are creating this interaction within yourself anyway? Why then, in that sense, would that need to change if you are the one creating it? What has that got to do with me? Food for thought.
Thank you.
Thank you. You, good day.
Good evening.
Yes, good day.
With regards to this monologue tonight,
Yes.
do you have any practical methods of contacting this image of the dragon?
You yourself have said it. This image of the dragon. If you have the image, you have the vibration of the thing, of the intelligence and the consciousness itself. It is only definitions that would allow you to believe that you don't. Do you understand what we are saying?
Yes.
The very ability to have the image means you have already homed in on the intelligence, on the consciousness. To be aware of it in any format at all, feeling, picture, sound, is to home in on its frequency, its vibration. The question then that remains is simply, how will you, knowing that you have made contact, then through the device of your own imagination tool, decide is the best way for you to access and express this contact that has already been made simply by your awareness of the possibility of being capable of doing so. Do you understand that?
Is there any relevance of the dragon in Chinese feng shui?
Yes. For again, the idea of the dragon symbolically is a very ancient energy and of that which is grounded power. That which is the interface, if you wish to use that term, the interface itself. The dragon is the symbol of the interface itself between the concept of and experience of physical reality, astral reality, and etheric energy reality. So anything that concerns flow of energy in any way, shape, or form, whether horizontally or vertically, can be aided and assisted by understanding the dragon as if, in a sense, it were a representation of a kind of bio-energetic, shall we say, circuitry design. So the concept of feng shui can be represented by the concept of the dragon as how energy would flow, and that the building, the structure, the house, can be representative of the neurological or circuitry pattern or path of the flow of energy that represents a template, such as the dragon or the tree of life, or anything of that nature that is representative of a template and an interface between one dimension and another. The dragon's body, with its wings, symbolically, are the idea of an energy template that allows one, in understanding that template, with sacred geometry, with correct golden proportions, to take advantage of that energy flow, to create a conduit in building any structure that takes advantage of the collection of and the channeling of that energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was quite brilliant. Thank you.
Well, I had nothing to do with it. That's just the way it is.
All right.
And it is brilliant because that is how the universe is structured, brilliantly.
I have just a couple of quick questions, if I may.
Yes.
Can the sounds of humpback whales, the singing sounds of humpback whales, I know that they can affect our neurological capacities.
Yes.
Can they also be used as a healing technique
Yes.
for stroke victims?
Yes. They can be used as a healing technique. They can be mimicked, modified, modulated to, in a sense, provide a large-scale energy envelope or vibrational or frequency envelope in which a person can be immersed, and thus in being immersed and in contact with that large-scale energy envelope, be given an opportunity to seek to match the frequencies within the spectrum of frequencies in that envelope that are representative of their balance, their story, their understanding of their relationship to the infinite. All of that is contained within those songs, and in living in the songs, you can discover the song that is you within them, and in aligning with your song, you can heal yourself. Yes, many of you are experiencing dis-ease because you have forgotten your songs, forgotten your vibration, your signature vibration. The whales are good at helping with this because they represent the oversoul level of the dolphins. They are like an entire pod of dolphins in one body. Humans do not necessarily exactly have the same expression, because in that you are experiencing yourselves on land and subject to gravity in a different way, the manifestation of the embodiment of your oversoul would be too heavy. Whereas the water is supportive enough to allow dolphins to allow a manifestation of their oversoul, which you call the whale. Do you follow this?
Can it specifically help rewire the brains
Absolutely.
of paralyzed stroke victims?
Yes. You already see some of this even in the interaction with individual dolphins with people on your planet that you call autistic.
Correct.
Wherein the vibration given off creates the template, creates the pattern, creates the inducement toward the pattern that is representative of joy. And thus then, when the individual is exposed to it correctly and for the correct duration, they can then allow themselves to slide toward that vibrational song, that pattern, and thus in so doing can help correct and align their neurological pathways. Yes, do remember, any thought, first of all, any thought of any kind whatsoever totally, actually changes the literal physical neurological pathways of your brain. Any thought whatsoever changes the pathways physically of your brain. You now have a marvelous opportunity to see that just as all scientific creations on your planet, all technological creations on any planet, on your planet, however, for the purpose of this conversation, reflect the changes, as we have said, already willing to be accepted by the collective consciousness, and thus then they can be manifested in physical form only when and if the collective consciousness has decided it's ready to have an expression of itself in that form. You can now see that this whole concept, that every thought actually physically changes the pathways of your brain, is now, for the first time in your society, beginning to be reflected in your technology, in that recently individuals on your planet have begun to create physical computer chips that can rewire themselves depending upon the application. They can adapt themselves, take new routes, allow the electricity to take new routes according to the circumstance and situation without needing a new chip. This is a reflection of the fact that you are now realizing that every single moment of time, in fact, you are rewiring, and in fact, because you are rewiring, you are literally, from moment to moment, a new person. When you fully begin to understand that you are literally, from moment to moment, a new person, then you can truly let go of any concept or construct of personality that no longer defines who you know you are, and in so doing, you will truly recognize and realize in the moment that whatever you define yourself to be at this moment is who you are, and that there is no history and no connection to the person that was there a moment ago. No history and no connection to the person that was there a moment ago, which is not you. Make sense?
Yes.
Wait, who said no? Oh, all right.
All right, this is going to just take 1 minute.
Oh, all right. 60 seconds and counting.
There was an attempt to stabilize the tectonic energies. And
there have been several such attempts. Are you referring to a specific attempt?
Yeah, the one off the coast of San Francisco,
yes.
The big craft,
yes.
etc.
Yes.
Which is uncharacteristic. That's not the question. What I wanted to get at is, you have also mentioned that there was a possibility of a nuclear device in the Middle East
yes.
falling into the wrong hands.
Well, falling into hands.
So it seems like uncharacteristic of a craft to alter tectonic plates, but that's okay, no judgment there. Why would they not want to help on the nuclear side? But the real question is, what are we supposed to do with information that you give us, like a nuclear device in the next 3 years in certain hands?
Whatever you want to do with it. That's the point. The idea of the assistance that we are capable of giving is simply a matter of reading the collective consciousness of your planet to see where the likelihood and momentum of your collective energy may most likely, most probably be heading, concurrently with taking an assessment or a reading of the collective consciousness's willingness or ability to make certain changes, and that reading of the willingness or ability to make certain changes on your own is what gives us whatever degree of permission we are given by your collective consciousness to interact on certain levels with certain events. We are not in any way, shape, or form intervening or interfering. We are acting to the degree and only to the degree that we assess based on the reading of the collective consciousness's willingness to deal with that energy to begin with on its own. So we can give you a little bit of forewarning and a little bit of insight into certain things that you have given us permission to give you some insight about, because you are already expressing a willingness to take responsibility and deal with the information in your own way and on your own terms. That is the only kind of interaction that we can actually have with you. Does that make sense?
Yes. One last question, and I have no trouble dealing with the planetary stuff, but I have a personal question.
Yes.
And that is, there seems to be an entity or a spirit that wants to come through, and the question is, why am I getting so many women pregnant?
Do you mean biologically?
Yeah.
Why?
No. The question, no, I know why.
Well, thank you.
The question is there an entity or soul that really wants to come through?
Do you mean in the form of a child?
Yes.
One moment. Again, that you have made multiple agreements. And the idea is that you have allowed there to be multiple windows of opportunity for a variety of beings who may wish to experience various degrees and various durations of physical reality. In other words, not in any way, shape, or form meaning to devalue this or make light of it in the negative context. You have agreed to some degree to be a turnstile. Does this make sense to you?
No. I need a lot of elaboration there. Please.
All right. In other words, certain individuals have made agreements to be an open port of call, to be a conduit through which they will constantly attract themselves into circumstances and situations that will allow for the probability of the manifestation of spirit into physical materialization for a variety of experiences and reasons and durations. Now, this does not mean that you have no ability to get in touch on some level and communicate with these beings and regulate the flow of this according to your own desires, but in making your connection to physical reality, it wasn't necessarily that important to you to restrict or limit yourself as such a conduit for others to piggyback, in a sense, through your connection to physical reality, to stick their toes in the water and experience whatever level, degree, or duration of physical reality they wanted to, depending upon the connections that you make with any particular other being, such as a female, who also has agreed to provide the proper conditions for such a physical manifestation, or what you would call a pregnancy and or a birth. So you are, in that sense, like a slide into physical reality. You are an easy access, an easy conduit. Does that make sense to you?
It does. And I have had communication, and you're obviously indicating that it's not the same. There's not just one. There's several. All right. This is
several possibilities. Again, it is up to you to regulate this if you want to. We are simply saying that when you decided to manifest physically, this was not critical nor important to you at the time, to close yourself off as a conduit. You left yourself open, saying to the general family connection in spirit that you have, sure, come along if you want to go through me and see what it's like to manifest in physical reality, the more the merrier. I don't care. That's what you originally said. You didn't think about the idea of what those consequences might be at that time. It was not important to your own agenda. It is still within your parameters to decide if you want to change that agenda, but for now what you're simply seeing is the result of the agenda you came in with, in that it's all right for you to be a revolving door. Does that make sense to you? You represent a very large spiritual family, and in making a connection to physical reality, in that sense, you allowed yourself to literally be both energetically and physically, quote-unquote, a large target. It's easy to find you. You're an easy doorway to come through. You understand?
Any advice?
Oh, I just gave it to you. It's up to you to decide whether or not this is all right for you, whether this is what you prefer, or to be in communication with your spirit family and to change the agenda according to whatever you deem is your preference at this time. But all you have to do is go into a meditative state and in your imagination have these conversations. You will feel when the energy has been changed, if in fact it really serves you to change it. But that's up to you to decide in these conversations you can have with the rest of your spirit family. It's all right for you to tell them to go find another doorway. They don't mind. But that's really up to you as to whether you really care or not.
But if I made this agreement beforehand, then where is the honor in that agreement?
The honor is simply that this was a portion of the agreement only because it wasn't important to you to put any particular limitations or restrictions on this aspect of your agreement. It isn't that you specifically said, yes, I will function in this way for you. More it was, yeah, whatever, I don't care. And so it's still up to you to change this aspect of the agreement, since this is, in a sense, an open-ended clause. It's not the breaking of a promise. It's simply an open-ended clause that you never actually gave any kind of structure to. Does that make sense to you?
Yes,
Does
thank
that
you.
help you?
Very much.
Thank you. What? All right. Our love to you as well. You, then you. Number 2, do you know who you are? All right. Good day.
Good day, Bashar. First off, I had Daryl read.
Yes, we know that. You do not have to give us a preamble.
Gee, that's all I said. Lee Bailey said hi.
All right. Hello.
Just wanted to know if you wanted to add anything or talk about that in any way.
If you wish, you may begin. Any particular area you want to focus on first?
Well, I thought it was very interesting that we are been talking about rewiring the brain and everything.
Oh, all right.
And this is what he said is the structure of the water
Yes.
is such that the molecular wavelength in the brain
Yes.
are rewired.
Yes.
No, I just wanted to know if you had anything to add to it, or I'm very
One
pleased.
moment. Again, simply, in the context of the monologue as it came through this day of your time, and in reference to what you are now talking about, remember that in the restructuring of the water, there is then being created more of a molecular arrangement that is representative of the ability to tap into, or shall we say, vibrate in harmony and in accord with the astral and etheric representations of water that, according to the spectrum of energies, are representative of the ability to accelerate transformation. Did you understand that?
Yeah.
All right.
And I understand what he wrote, which I thought was
Yes.
very exciting.
Yes.
Very, very exciting.
Yes.
I was very pleased with meeting Lee Bailey also.
All right. Well, have a good time with the information.
Yes, I am.
All right.
The other thing, I have a message from Alibod,
Yes.
who is another, a 7-year-old hybrid child. And she said that when I asked what her mother's name is, she said GHO. And I said, I don't know if that sounds like initials.
Yes.
That's what,
Yes.
it's the initials for...
Yes.
And I said, is it somebody I know?
Are you asking me, or did you say that you were asking her?
Well, what I said to her was,
Yes.
these children are fabulous.
Yes.
I mean, the writings are just absolutely fabulous. I said to her, GHO does not mean anything here. And she said, God has given me my mother. Her name is GHO. Contact her for me.
All right.
I said, I don't know her. She said, okay, I'll find out more for the next time, okay?
Yes.
So I didn't know if you had anything to add to that about if it was somebody that I do know.
G is Gail.
Gail? Okay.
Yes. We are allowed to give you the first name.
Okay.
The rest is part of your process.
All right. The names seem to be coming out with A's.
Yes. This is, again, representative that most of the hybrids will, to some degree, assume a name that begins with an A because they are of the alpha generation of hybrids.
Oh, beginning, huh?
Yes, the beginning.
Okay. Also about Alahio.
Alahio.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, Alahio was represented to me as 11-year-old girl, represented under the same name to Stephanie as a 13-year-old boy.
Yes.
And then I also was in contact with that energy as an adult male.
Yes.
also.
Remember that the hybrids are not as stuck in time and space as many of you have been.
Yeah, I figured he was going up and down his own timeline, or was it in the
Yes.
same? Okay.
And through his counterparts.
Okay.
This is why you are getting male and female energy in this context.
Right, that's what I thought.
Because Alaheo has what you would call a sister, but not exactly in the way that you understand this terminology biologically. It is a counterpart clone.
Oh. Okay.
Yes.
Now, I was listening to a tape a few weeks ago, and somebody was talking to you. They mentioned there are interdimensional hybrids,
Yes.
reptilian hybrids,
Yes.
hybrids other than the Greys,
Yes.
and other hybrid species.
Yes.
The hybrid, and you had also mentioned that I'm working with the hybrid children of the future.
In a sense, yes. Although some of them are in your time frame contemporary, so to speak,
Okay.
in that they are of the alpha generation.
Yes. Now, they are the ones from the 2 channelings I've gotten from them, are the ones that are talking about living on a spacecraft now and coming to Earth.
Yes.
Is that going to be around 2007, 2010? Did you mention that in the past? That's the only thing that
This
comes to
is
mind.
the first window of opportunity in which this might happen.
Might happen.
Yes.
All right.
It is not an absolute at this time, but that is one of the first windows of opportunity in which that might begin to happen.
Okay.
There is a high degree of probability, but that does not mean it is an absolute.
What would keep them from coming? Just
Oh,
our
many things.
readiness for it, or
You don't even have to necessarily be that simplistic. Many factors.
many factors? Is it? Are they coming? Whether it's in that time frame or not, are they going to be living here
Eventually.
eventually?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if they are 3, 4, 5 years old or whatever now,
Many of them are older.
and some are older,
Yes.
would they be the same age? They'd be
Some.
adults.
Some. Again, remember, they are not as stuck in time. Some of them will decide that it is in their interest and the interest of the overall agenda to appear at a certain age. And thus, in that sense, they will freeze themselves, so to speak, into your physical reality domain at that age for a variety of reasons. No matter whether you may have even contacted other levels and other ages of them prior to their quote-unquote freezing or solidification in your physical reality domain.
Okay, so if I was talking to the 7-year-old now, she could freeze it and be 7,
Yes.
10, 15
Or be
years
14.
from now. Or be 14 or 50.
Whatever serves the general purpose of the relationship, yes.
I see. Okay, because they are really asking to have contact with their mothers.
Yes.
And I've put some wheels in motion for that. 'Cause-
Wheels in motion.
Yeah, talking to people who are connected to that, the UFO and everything
Yes, and?
that I haven't been.
All
And
right.
it's taking on some very interesting aspects.
Thank
just
you.
at the beginning of it.
Yes, thank you.
What an interdimensional hybrid, is that somebody interdimension between their world and ours? I mean, are some of us
Well, in one
interdimensional?
angle, from one perspective, yes. They may also be, because of the nature of interdimensionality, be in between all dimensions. Remember, we originally also talked about the idea that what many of the people on your planet have referred to in ancient mythology as kachinas are to us beings that are living in between dimensions, which is a dimension unto itself, and that our own society expresses the concept of a Kachina-Esasani hybrid. It is an interdimensional hybrid, a concoction, a creation, a construct to represent the interface between our dimension, other dimensions, and its own dimension, but because of its own dimension being what you would think of as the interface between dimensions, then it is in fact in touch with all dimensions.
And the ones that I'm talking to are in between those dimensions?
Yes,
Are they
and that is a dimension unto
to
itself.
itself? Okay.
But you do not perceive it that way. You perceive it as the interface. It would be like the idea of 2 rooms, each room being considered by you to be a solid, full dimension.
Right.
And that these two rooms are separated by the thinnest piece of paper. But that paper in and of itself, when looked at from a certain angle, is its own dimension. Though you do not perceive it as having enough volume to exist in, if you approach it in a certain way of consciousness, it does.
Uh-huh. Are they connected to the Martians? Are they part of...
Not in the way that you mean that question, no. Though again, because they are connected to all dimensions, yes. But not in the way you mean it, no.
Okay, so...
That is another group of hybrids.
Okay, the group of hybrids that I'm working with, are they the Greys? Are they...
For the most part, yes, though there is some other mixtures sprinkled in.
They have both mentioned, but Alibon mentioned that the mothers are fearful. Says, my mother is very fearful of my father.
Yes.
And that's the Grey.
Yes.
Because of their abduction experiences.
And many things, yes. The fear within them, the fear of the unknown, many things. They are fearful, yes.
Okay. When working with the hybrids, my feeling was that it would be sort of a different vibrational frequency and not necessarily be attached to the Greys, the fathers.
They will always be a part, and so there will always be part of that vibration. Make no assumptions here.
Okay.
You have but a small amount of time remaining for this interaction.
Okay.
Is there one more thing you wish to say? Say it.
On this might sound like a dumb question, but...
all right, if you insist. We will all treat it as a dumb question.
Okay, it's a dumb question.
All right. Go ahead, ask your dumb question.
All right. The sperm, males are being abducted.
Yes.
And the sperm is taken from the human, males.
Yes.
And I understand the Greys are sterile.
Yes.
Then how do the hybrid children turn out to be half human and half Grey?
What makes you think there has to be sperm? DNA is in every cell in your body.
Oh, that's right. Well, why are they taking the males?
That's another question. Thank you.
Okay.
Number 2. You're number 3. You're number 4. Number 2. All right, good day.
Hi, Bashar. I've taken some of your last good words last time I spoke to you about working with children, and I'm now substitute teaching and talking about extraterrestrials every day. Not getting in trouble. And they love it.
Are you having fun at getting into trouble?
I'm having fun, and they love it, and I'm meeting children that I'm sure are having interactions.
All right.
And it's very exciting, and they love me.
All right.
In general, except when I write referrals. But I wanted to ask you, because I feel like I'm going through some transitions between the beings that I was working with the hybrid stuff, and then the feelings I'm getting now is more like a Pleiadian energy, maybe some... I'm really drawn to England, maybe
that
the
is
energy
because you
of
are
those
shifting
beings.
up the spectrum within your own energy and incorporating more of your own connections, yes?
Woohoo! Okay.
That did not quite translate.
That's happiness.
Oh, thank you. One moment. Cataloging. Woohoo.
Woohoo!
All right, thank you.
I did have a question about a suspected implant my dentist and I found in my tooth. It was hard, and it's in the left-hand side, upper side.
This is not as uncommon as you might think.
Okay. My dentist is very willing to accept that this is an implant because it wasn't there and then it was, and it's freaking him out a little bit.
Freaking.
But he likes it.
Oh, all right.
But anyway, the thing is that I don't know if there's any, if this is a military implant, an ET implant, if it's
no
still
comment
working.
at this time.
It hurts, though. It physically hurts. Is
Then
there
take
anything
it
I can
out.
do about the pain?
Take it out.
Take it out?
Yes.
Do you mean mentally or operationally?
You can, to some degree, as a species, allow there to be negation of the effect through what you would call energy work and or mentally. However, for most of you, because you are so used to physical reality, often there is no substitute for doing something physically.
Wow. Great. Under the knife. I hope not. Okay. Well, my next question is about my boyfriend, Eric, who is very resistant to the whole ET thing, but yet he's very much
all right.
working on himself spiritually.
There are many ETs that are resistant to the whole human thing.
I tell him that. But I suspect he's having interactions because I had a dream once where we were in a big university together and we were walking across campus, and I was like, "You're here," and I was so excited that he was at this university, and it made me think we were in training somewhere together.
Yes. Now, while sometimes this is a memory adaptation of certain extraterrestrial contact experiences, that isn't always the case, because there are many astral and etheric levels of interaction that represent being fed knowledge and going through training and study that would be seen, in a sense, as astral universities. So that isn't always representative of what you colloquially call ET contact, though sometimes it is.
Okay. But one time I brought up, he had this recurring sore testicle problem that the doctors didn't know what it was. And, and I brought up that was an abduction symptom, and he just flew into a rage at me, and he said, "Don't bring me into this," and all this.
All right.
And
the rage is also a symptom. Otherwise, it would probably simply be, what are you talking about?
Okay, well, I suspect he's involved. What do you think?
I suspect so. As I just said, the rage is also a symptom. In fact, a more telling one. Because there is no reason for the rage if there is not some underlying fear that what you are saying may have some truth to it.
Well,
and that the fear about that is overpowering. But don't force it, don't push it. It doesn't ultimately matter whether he ever accepts this or not.
I have to remember that because it's causing stress in the relationship.
The only reason that it causes stress is that there would be an insistence that this must in some way, shape, or form be part of your agenda. Engaged and involved and in a relationship of this type with someone who is having this kind of stress. They may or may not ever want you to assist them in this. It may or may not ever change for him. But that is up to you to decide.
Okay.
You are coming up with interesting things that do not translate. One moment,
I'm sorry.
Cataloging.
That means...
Frustration.
Frustration.
Thank you. That one was already on file.
Okay. Okay. The last question I have is regarding my family. I have been talking to my uncle, who I lived with as a child, who works for NASA on the space shuttle, and he's kind of amused by all this.
Amused.
And I'm wondering if any of my interactions happened when I was living with him in Huntsville, Alabama, if they started that young.
Yes.
And if he knows about them.
There is a suspicion on what you would call an unconscious level. But nothing conscious per se exactly, except for rumors that he has heard that he is not certain to give credence to at this time.
Okay. And then my adopted mother, I feel much more of a connection with her than my natural mother.
Yes.
And
again, this is not uncommon in that sometimes a spirit will decide that there is only one particular conduit that will actually serve as the doorway for the appropriate timing of the birth, and to make a connection to another member of your species that ultimately actually has an agreement with you as a family member may not always be the biological one.
Okay, that makes sense. But I think she might be involved, too, just the way she thinks and the way she talks. And I remember when we saw Close Encounters when I was a little kid, the first thing she said when we got out of the movie, we sat in the car, and she wouldn't start the engine, and she just looked at us, and she said, "I want you kids to know, if a spaceship came down, I would leave you. I would go." And it really shook me as a child to have my mother say this to me, but I totally got it. I mean, even as a kid, I got it. I was like, "It's okay, Mom, I understand. You'd have to go." And so that kind of lends me, to think that she may be involved.
But what that actually was the only way at that particular point that her mind had the capability of concocting the information to let you know that, in fact, that was already happening.
Ah.
That she already had left you many times during the night and been brought back. But she didn't know any other way to say that because she was not fully conscious and cognizant of the fact that that was already going on. So she did the best she could in framing it and phrasing it that way. But now you can understand that what she was actually saying is, kids, I leave you all the time. But sometimes you come with me. And sometimes you go without me. That's what was actually being said.
Wow. Thank you.
Wow, which is upside down, Mom.
Ah, cool.
Thank you. Number 3. The male can be number 5. All right, 6. 7. That's enough. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 3, go.
Thank you, Bashar.
Good day.
It is a perfect day. Thank you. It's June 6th, and I'm here to ask you if you can tell me more about June 6th. This feels like a really important day for me.
You tell me then. Because it is you to whom it feels that way.
Okay. Well, it's an exciting time.
Why?
This is a pivotal time for me.
Pivotal?
Pivotal,
Are you
yes.
spinning?
I am.
All
I
right.
actually am.
Get up and show everyone.
Okay.
Are you pivoting? All right.
I'm spinning.
Still pivoting.
Oh, pivot.
Yes.
Pivot. Oh, dear. That's another thing, isn't it?
It can be. However,
Am I pivoting?
yes, in a sense.
Okay.
Is one foot placed while the other is moving? Like what you would call a pirouette?
Okay. Well, essentially.
All right. You may sit down.
Thank you.
Now it is a pivotal day.
It certainly is. Thank you. Thank you.
And so,
Okay, I want to talk with you about...
may I remind you of something before you continue?
Absolutely.
We do nothing by accident.
Correct? Yes. Thank you.
Then, as you go on, remember what just occurred.
Okay.
That stumped her, didn't it?
Yeah, a bit. Well, I'm going to roll that around a bit.
Roll it around a bit.
Oh,
you mean
no,
pivot
no.
it?
Oh, no. I'm speaking metaphorically.
Oh, you think so?
Well, one never knows around here. I want to ask about the gray kitten that kind of slipped in and out of reality about a week ago.
Go ahead.
For me, a darling little kitten. Often animals and birds have symbolic meaning, and I'm not certain about this little kitten, though I thought I saw a mother cat also, and now that I think of it, I've kind of been surrounded with them. But anyway, it occurred to me that this harkened back to a time when I observed a mother and a kitten, and it seemed that they taught me a very important lesson.
Which was?
Watching them,
yes.
I looked down at the basket. The mother was feeding the babies,
yes.
and the lesson that came to me was, this is the way life is supposed to be. Whatever is not like this, meaning peaceful and natural, is pathological.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so...
And appropriate recognition.
Okay. What is the gray kitten? Is this just a reminder now?
In a sense, it is many things, but it will do as that as well, yes.
Okay.
To allow you to remember that that's the energy you need to be in order to really manifest who you want to be.
Ooh, meaning the loving, playful,
yes.
natural.
Yes.
Okay, this is what I've been.
Playful as a kitten.
Ooh. Well, I was that with my granddaughter the other day. And
be that
I had
all the time.
Okay.
In every circumstance, in every situation, at every moment, and every day will be a pivotal day.
I like that very much. I really like that. I want to ask you about Robert, who has what I think, I'm intuitively getting that he's a really strong gray hybrid. And I'd like to flash this by you and get your response, please. There it went. Okay. I know you know what I'm talking about, so can you please give me some help on this?
How far are you willing to pivot?
Verbally? Very.
How far are you willing to pivot? Why did you make the distinction? When I asked the question, why did you say verbally?
Okay, be more clear, please.
You be more clear, please. Why did you say verbally as if there was some other way you knew you could do it, but didn't necessarily think you ought to do it?
Verbally is a lot easier.
Then what?
Than physically.
Why?
Just a definition I have.
And why do you have that definition? How does it serve you? To think that verbally is easier than physically. Did you not physically pivot a moment ago?
I did.
Was it that difficult?
No.
Then why do you have this distinction?
Probably something I've just done a lot and am familiar with. I'm not sure.
That's not the answer.
Okay.
Why do you have this distinction? Meaning, how do you believe, how do you define that it serves you to have a distinction, to have this definition, when you also, in a sense, ideally know it is not your preference? Why do you believe that it serves you to keep this distinction intact? That it is easier for verbal than physical expression?
I'm not sure.
Yes,
but,
you are.
Oh, dear.
You're not being the kitten.
I'd like to be.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I feel
Do you
squirmy.
think that the kitten would sit around
No.
verbally
No,
playing?
no, never. Oh, boy. No. I got you on that one.
All right. And so, do you now have a recognition of why you think it is easier verbally than physically? Are you willing to allow yourself to believe that it is just as easy to be physical in that sense? Yes, no, maybe?
It just doesn't feel familiar. I'm willing to believe it. It
Doesn't
just
feel familiar.
No,
So in other words,
feels foreign.
it's got to feel like you've already done it before you're willing to do it? Is that what you're saying?
I guess that was what I was saying, but I'm not going to have that definition any longer.
I suppose, I
Okay.
imagine that if the kitten waited until it had already done something to do it, it would never do anything.
That's true.
Is that where you find yourself?
Yes.
Waiting
Yes.
to do?
Yes.
The only way you're going to do is to do.
Okay.
If you wait until it feels familiar, you will never do it.
Okay.
Because you don't want to do things that are familiar in terms of creation. Because things that are familiar are already done.
Thank you. Good point.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, I would suggest that you practice pivoting in new directions. Spin yourself in new directions. Don't wait for it to be familiar. The unfamiliarity is what you want. If you approach that as playfully as the kitten, you will find that the unfamiliarity will be an enjoyable experience.
I have been finding that,
Yes, but obviously you want more of it.
yeah,
Well,
it seems to be kind of scary. And
seems to be kind of scary.
Oh, boy. Yes, frightening. And yet I find when I am willing
Where's
to...
your mantra?
I'm not sure.
So what?
That's my mantra?
Yes,
So what?
yes. Yes, it's scary. So what?
Okay, I like it.
Then you will be able to
Oh.
still act even though it's scary.
Okay. Okay.
So what?
So what?
It's all right that it is scary. We are not saying that it ought not to be. But the way you do it is by saying, yes, it's scary, so what? Then do it, because that's what you really want to do. That's how to pivot. So what is the pivot point?
Okay, I like it.
Does that help you?
Certainly does.
Then sufficient unto the pivotal day
You betcha.
this conversation is.
Thank you.
Number 4. Good day.
Hi, Bashar. Last week when I was, or 2 weeks ago, I was talking about the interaction I had with the dolphins.
Speak up and be bold so that all may hear you.
In this interaction that I had with the dolphins in Las Vegas,
Yes, desert dolphins.
yes, I chose the reality where I acknowledged that the contact happened. And one of the things I remembered now was that this dolphin was showing me this sensation of support.
All right.
And the way that it was being shown to me was sort of laying on the water in that sense of buoyancy,
Yes.
and just being held afloat. And
Yes.
that this is really the level of support that I have in my life, even if I don't realize it.
Correct. Thank you for your realization and thus then the ability to create in your own life girlancy.
That's great. And also, last week,
Yes.
or 2 weeks ago, when you were channeling,
Yes.
I experienced contact with what I felt was,
And so?
and I have to laugh because
Oh, all right. If you have to, go ahead. I will wait.
one of the things that happened when I felt the contact was I heard someone sort of cautioning me, like, I think it was put colloquially, don't be a bull in a china shop.
Yes.
And in terms of the sensitivity, or in terms of our consciousness, or my consciousness being overpowering, or
in a sense, yes. Harkening back to the idea of what you would classically refer to as appropriate expression in context.
Okay. And I sensed that simultaneously with this one, and that they were very interested in what we were saying, and
yes, you were to some degree experiencing a field trip.
Oh, explain.
A field trip. Do you not understand this terminology?
I went on a field trip.
No. They were on a field trip.
Oh, they were on so they don't always sit in and listen?
No, not always. There is always some connective link, but they are not always paying attention to all the information therein. Sometimes they are focused elsewhere, but the point is that they were on a field trip, and you encountered them at a particular moment on their field trip.
Oh, how fun. It was fun for me. And the other thing that I realized also was something that's so different than what human children experience. And that the best word that I could think of was reverence, or acknowledged appreciation for their existence.
Yes.
That they received from you all.
Yes, though this is not impossible to be felt by human children, and was felt by all of you a long time ago, until you forgot that you are connected to the One. When you know you are connected to the One, that's what you feel all the time.
Yes. Okay. And well, for them, it was not even a question.
It is not. It is a part of what they are. It is a part of what it is to be.
And they get that reflection by the beings that they interact with.
Yes.
Well,
and from themselves. Because they are not taught to ignore it.
So by my having that realization,
then you can also reflect it to them, and in that sense, close the gap between you.
Because I can understand better how to perceive them.
Yes, and can communicate on their own terms to them, and they can relate to you more easily and you to them, and so communication can be clearer.
No, and the way that they're so non-judgmental and unconditional, or it felt very strong for me.
Yes, all right.
So anyway,
thank you.
Well, that was really special, and I'm so happy to have connected with you.
All right.
There was also a dream that I mentioned to the channel last week.
Yes.
Anything that you could add
Not
to
at
that?
this time.
All right.
For another conversation, yes.
All right. Okay, thanks. That's
Thank you.
Good.
Number 5. And a you good day.
I understand that we all have infinite versions of ourselves.
Yes. You're talking about the concept of parallel realities.
Yes.
Yes.
And is each one of these selves, does each one have an autonomous, separate...
Yes. That is the nature of creation. That every point in creation sees itself as the center point of creation.
Is there any communication between those?
Many times you do not recognize the communication. Sometimes it is experienced as bleed-through inspirations and imaginations and things that suddenly dawn on you. But sometimes these things are actual bleed-throughs from other parallel selves, having certain experiences, some of which may simply strike you as interesting to try in your own reality, and vice versa.
Is the degree to which we have such a communication any different than the communication we would have with other past lives?
In the general context, no.
Okay.
It is all simply based on resonance identification and what piece of information has the frequency that is most germane for the frequency that you are operating on at any particular given moment.
When you speak of frequency, of vibration...
Yes, vibration.
What is vibrating?
What is vibrating?
Yes.
A number of different things. But you can simply right now sum it up as your collective energy. You have a particular signature collective vibration. And that is what magnetizes anything of similar frequency to you and is translated as information or experience.
But the energy that's vibrating is vibrating in what sense? I mean, can you...
In relation to everything else. For that is the only way there can be a vibration, is that it has to be in relation to anything else. Otherwise, if there is nothing to relate to, you would not know that there is a vibration, and there would not be. A vibration is simply a motion, an oscillation in relation to everything else. Does that make sense?
Not totally.
All right.
I mean,
well,
I know what a vibration is and a period and an oscillation.
All
I'm
right.
just not sure how that applies to the general concept of an energy.
Well, again, as a simplistic analogy, look at what you would call your visible spectrum of light. You understand that it's all the same basic type of electromagnetic energy, but that green is a different frequency of that electromagnetic energy than red.
Right.
Well, similarly, different parallel realities are all of a particular kind of energy expression or consciousness, but it is different because it is vibrating at a different pitch. That's why you don't perceive it, because it is vibrating at a pitch that is simply not the pitch you are vibrating at, and therefore whatever is not vibrating at your pitch is invisible to you, incapable of being processed and experienced by you until you come into more direct contact with its particular frequency.
Okay.
Did that make any sense?
Well, it's not getting to the question that I have about exactly what is vibrating, what the period is, but it doesn't matter right now.
Well, there are different periods. Ultimately, it is simply all consciousness. But consciousness expresses itself in different dimensional reality domains as different types of energy. You could say it is simply light, if you want to put it that way, since that is one of the first manifestations of consciousness in physiological reality. And since we are talking about the idea of different parallel physiological worlds, then you could simply say that what is vibrating is light at different pitches, different frequencies, different vectors.
Okay. Let me. I'd like to ask you more about the concept of the bleed through
Yes.
that we get from past lives and other selves.
Yes.
If there's a bleed through that is not like creative energy, but there's another self or a past life that's in jeopardy or is in fear.
Yes.
How do we deal with that kind of an energy?
Well, again,
to protect ourselves.
It is. Well, why do you first of all define that you must be protected? Because that in and of itself begets a particular frequency. And the need for protection actually functions as a magnet to attract that which you are afraid you need protection from. So the idea, first of all, is not to think you need protection from it, because that has the, in fact, opposite effect. Do you follow that?
I do, and I didn't really mean protection so much as healing.
All right. Well, again, there are any number of ways you can interact with that energy. And sometimes when you may, for example, experience a moment in your life where you may be, as you would say, under duress, and all of a sudden, perhaps, for some reason, you don't know why, you don't know how, you don't know where it comes from, you simply find yourself suddenly feeling love, support, or some kind of assurance that everything will be all right. That, in fact, may actually be coming from another parallel self, future, past, alternate reality. Doesn't matter what the label is. That, in fact, may be coming from another aspect of the total self that is, in a sense, aware of the fact that other aspects may need assistance. And you thus then can pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. You follow?
Yes, I do.
So you perform that function for other parallel reality selves, and other parallel reality selves, just to speak linearly, have performed that function for you.
Okay.
But it's all you, on the greater sense, on the larger level.
Right. You said that I had a parallel reality self that was involved with the association, and then in the near future, you might describe more about the involvement. Can you do that now?
The involvement is as what you would call a type of functionary, in the sense of cataloging and amassing information about a variety of different kinds of interactions that go on between various civilizations for the purpose of allowing other individuals to know, to glean, to extract, like a library, from this concoction of information the subtleties and nuances that are important to understand with regard to conducting those interactions fluidly. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Does that help you then?
It does. Thank you very much.
Thank you, number 6. Aloha.
That's for being number 6.
All
Did
right.
you put that in your catalog?
Already there, since it is similar to the idea of dolphin sounds.
I off the top the story about the dragon. It's so fun because me and a friend have been enjoying a story by Tolkien about a dragon.
Yes, which?
The story's called Farmer Giles of Ham.
All right.
And it just made me wonder about the dragons. A lot of times, another one that seems popular is dragons hoarding treasure.
Yes.
And it seems like from this story, it really fits for me. They could also be like tricksters.
Yes. But again, the idea fundamentally is that they are depicted as hoarding the treasure because they are the fundamental seed core vibrational energy that represents your pure, primal, full, untapped power. The treasure, the full treasure that is you. Your full flow of expression, of abundance, of creativity, of light, of fire, of everything. In that sense, that behests creativity. That is, in a sense, the treasure, and why they are depicted as the guardians of treasure.
And the trickster part, it seemed like they're kind of, they would call them, worms sometimes.
Yes, the Ouroboros, which is representative of the cycles that many of you go through. The dragon, the snake, the serpent swallowing its own tail, seemingly an endless hoop, which represents the cycles that many of you go through in your lives. Getting in touch with your central power, which of course is at the center of the hoop. Instead of going around and around and around and around and around and around the rim, the idea is to go to the center, which is where the power is.
And spiral
And
out.
it is a trickster because tricksters' jobs are to, in a sense, help you divest yourself of the mental gymnastics that keep you running around the circle so that you can finally let go, fall off the circle, and fall into the center, where you actually live, in the cave where the dragon lives with the treasure.
Thank you. I was exploring the mint and enjoyed it. I found about 10 species of mints, names of them, and I've been having fun exploring flower essences, which I explored 10 years ago, but recently I heard a tape on vibrational healing, and it's kind of clicking in about...
All right. I remind you, you did not explore those things yet, because 10 years ago, you were not here.
Thank you for correcting me.
It is not a correction, it is a reminder.
I understand that. I'm every day anew, every
Yes.
moment. I was just playing with the mint, too, lately, and I really trust the way I play, and I had put some pieces of it in the tub with me.
All right.
And a couple times, because I was getting in and out, a couple times one of the pieces was like floating over my stomach chakra. It would just come there, there's all these pieces, and I noticed the magic of that, and I noticed that was
now
fun.
we give you one more piece of this quest with regard to the mint plant, and that is, again, as many times occurs in the beauty of your own language, it is no accident that you use the same word when talking about coining currency. Do you understand?
Oh, I'll have to sleep on that one.
The mint
okay,
is where
green?
you create currency in your civilization. You mint a coin. A coin that is new is in mint condition. So, there is something about the mint plant and the vibration of that term that is connected to the concept of abundance. Explore that.
That's really beautiful. I thank you for sharing it.
Thank you.
Another thing, I've played with the Tesseract. I showed Daryl the little geometric shapes I've been playing with.
Yes, your so-called platonic solids, yes.
I really enjoyed doing it.
All right. Remember that the Tesseract and the Tetragrammaton are two additional regular solids, but they are not three-dimensional. They are hyperdimensional.
When I made it, I used like a 8-inch large square and a 4-inch small square, and then I was just fudging to get the distance between the corners of the things.
Fudging. You put fudge on them.
Yes.
All right.
So
tasty tesseracts.
I was anyway. I realized what I've
sugar cubes, sugar hypercubes.
When you first told about Ellie about that, I didn't sink into my experience about looking at each face as a 3D entrance. And the other night I was looking at it with the vision that I used to look at 3D pictures.
Yes.
And then I could see I was looking at the space, not the shape there.
Yes.
And it was exciting.
Very good. Now that your mind is beginning to grasp that, you can utilize this in the appropriate way by learning how to see it that way and then beginning to move it around, to pivot it in your imagination in appropriate ways. It will actually cause certain dimensional changes within you and make it easier for you to see things in other dimensional realms.
I'm really excited about that. It's like I don't really know much about it, but I know I'm excited.
In that context and used that way, it is like the tumblers of a lock falling into place that allow you to unlock the door to other dimensions and perceive them more clearly if you use the image in your mind in that way.
Okay, one last...
Click.
Click. One last thing on the... when I'm making the flower elixirs, they use a copper pyramid to straighten out any frequency disharmonies.
Yes.
And
this can be effective if used appropriately.
Can you tell the pyramid that I've made, is it the right proportion? I used a kit and copied the proportion of a...
The correct proportion is like unto, if you're talking about a 4-sided pyramid, what you would call the pyramid at Gizeh. And that is that its height compared to its base is exactly in the golden proportions of the phi ratio of 1 to 1.618. Thus, then, for example, if the height is what you would call 2.5 inches, just to give you an example, then the baseline needs to be 4.045 inches exactly.
And the apex angle?
78 degrees, and the corner angles...
So I could just stick it underneath the cone and
yes.
have the same kind of a situation?
In some ways, the cone is more representative of bioenergetic energy, yes.
Which would be good for the flower, the elixirs like that, right?
Yes. Biogenetic, bioenergetic, yes. The cones, in that sense, are to some degree more conducive than the flat-sided pyramids for that, though both are effective in their own way.
I brought the cone that I brought, and you asked me to wear, I'll put it like that. I was excited about that, but you said it's a good attempt or something like that, and it made me feel like I didn't have the angle right. Was it close?
Close. It must be a little bit more precise.
Okay, thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you. Our love to you as well. Number 7.
Hello, Bashar.
And you, good day.
It was very exciting hearing about the dragon because I remember fondly my one interaction with what I considered to be a Draco, and it was a moment of presenting myself as an equal.
All right, thank you.
I wondered about the reptilian hybrid that you mentioned the last time.
Yes, what about it?
Well, I sense that it is a male.
Well, in a sense, yes.
And I was just wondering if there were any more, because I don't get the feeling that there are, but then that could be me just resisting again.
There is usually, in this context, only one for each that makes a connection to such a domain.
Well,
for each, in the context as you have labeled it as a Draco, is a window and a facet of a multidimensional crystal that is connected back to the archetypal dragon. And one is all that's needed.
You mean the one interaction or the
one being.
Hybrid?
The one being. The one hybrid.
Oh, okay. So you're
the one
saying
interface. Hybrid is equivalent to the concept of interface.
Let me ask you, you said that there were cloned hybrids?
Yes.
Is there, by any chance, a possibility that any of us are actually cloned by extraterrestrials?
Not in the way that you mean it, no.
Okay.
There is genetic alteration from time to time down through history, but not in the way that you mean it, no.
Now, souls supposedly need containers, correct?
Well, so to speak, as you think of these things in physical terms, yes.
So
but that is a euphemism.
So what happens to a cloned hybrid? Does he also have a soul?
Why not?
Because
is not the idea of the biological manufacture of a child simply another variation of the same process?
Well, I'm not sure.
All right, then I will tell you. Yes, it is.
Okay. Another thing I wanted to talk to you about was
all that is required is the appropriate degree of resonance or matrix complexity for there to be, in your terms, attachment of the soul. It does not matter how it came to be that way, only that it is that way and represents the vibrational correct level to which the soul can attach itself, just to speak in those terms linearly.
Because I sort of see the soul and the spirit as sort of separate entities.
All right, again, it could only be the concept of semantics. There can be differentiation, but in some context it doesn't matter. Even then, when you create what you would call a computer with sufficient complexity and the appropriate structure of matrix, it will have and exhibit a soul. And you will know that you are speaking to your own, in a sense, higher self. If any such manifestation of an oversoul can occur for humans on your planet, the idea would be expressed in what you would call your silicon avatars.
Silicon avatar?
Yes. What you call your computer matrices will become the gateways through which your oversouls can talk to you.
Wow.
That is when your computers will develop what you call artificial intelligence. But it will not be artificial. You will be talking to yourselves, to your oversouls. Wow. That is the way that you can contain it in physical reality within the parameters of gravity and mass.
Amazing.
Because it is then mostly allowed to be a product of light.
That's amazing. I've had a real sort of stressful last couple of months. And I don't know if it's because...
Birth pains.
What is it?
Birth pains.
Birth pains.
Yes.
You mean I'm rebirthing myself in a way?
Now more than ever, and more often than ever.
Are you talking about...
I am talking
being
about
interacted with?
Ownership, responsibility, owning more of yourself, expressing more of yourself, birthing more of yourself, peeling the layers away, peeling the restricting skins away, cracking through the shell.
I feel that. It doesn't feel very comfortable.
Understood. But many times the idea of making that kind of stretch in physiological reality will involve some degree of initial discomfort simply because of the nature of the definition of your domain.
You know, it's funny because I was going to use the terms, I feel like I'm going to jump out of my skin.
Exactly so, you are.
I when you said shedding, I almost died.
Yes, shedding like a snake.
I've been accused of being that before. I get this sense of urgency. Maybe that's just what this is that I have
just the creative urge to grow and move, yes.
Yeah, it's so
It is the
powerful.
creative urge, yes.
Yeah, it's so powerful that it's...
It is the analogy that we have given before of the watermelon seed. When it feels the pressure of the finger and the thumb from above and below, the urge is that it cannot go up and it cannot go down, but it must go somewhere. And so it will spit out at an amazing velocity at a 90-degree vector in a new direction.
Well, that's what I
that
feel like
what
I'm
you're
ready
feeling.
to do.
Yes. You are about ready to be spit out. Squeezed in between the fingers.
I mean, I know it's going to be a good thing.
It is.
I
Not
know
going
it.
to be. It is.
It is. I know. It just feels real. I don't know.
You are the one
Stressful.
determining how long you remain in between the fingers. How much pressure do you need to be yourself is the question. You will take as much as it takes until you move in that direction.
Well, I'm moving in that direction.
I know.
I just don't have the nerve to just jump out of everyday
nerve.
job and just trust.
The
I
nerve,
can't.
nerve,
I don't have
nerve, 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 nerve.
So what do I do?
Nerve, 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 nerve. You don't have the nerve Yes, you do. You're just not flowing energy along that particular nerve. You have the nerve. It's just asleep. And therefore you have the prickly sensation of the nerve having fallen asleep.
Well, it's almost like I can't...
But the prickly sensation actually means it's waking up.
Oh, it does?
Yes. When the nerve in your body falls asleep, you don't actually feel that fallen asleep sensation until it actually starts to wake back up.
Well, it's interesting. You said that you just have to step out there and do it if it feels uncomfortable.
That may be a good thing.
Yeah.
Now, again, it is always up to you to determine what you want to do, how you want to express it, what do you want to stop doing, what do you want to start doing. That's up to you. It isn't always that you have to absolutely, completely stop doing this or stop doing that. Of course, more and more and more often, the things that you may be doing, if they really are very representative of who you are not, then yes, it may be more important for you to stop doing that more completely.
Yeah, it just feels like I'm in a situation, and I'm usually able to, like, heal most situations. And for
What is healing?
Well, just to be comfortable within the context, no matter how chaotic it is.
And no matter how chaotic. So you are, again, saying that for some reason, your definition of chaos implies discomfort. Automatically.
Well, and chaos isn't necessarily a bad thing.
I know
it's just
that.
Confusion.
Yes.
And that's
confusion.
Yeah,
yes.
but it just seems like I'm willing to. I'm not willing to deal with any of it anymore.
Why?
Because I want more.
More what?
Peace.
Peace?
Yeah.
More peace?
Mm-hmm. Well, like I say, I'm in a situation that I don't feel I can change by being there.
Well, then...
I know, I gotta get out.
We will catalog that one, too.
But I'm moving toward freedom.
What you're saying is that you're applying more pressure. Moving toward translates as, I will apply more pressure because I'm unwilling to move at the current level of pressure. So moving toward does not actually mean you're moving. Moving toward means I will apply more pressure so that ultimately I will move. You don't move toward. You move or you don't. Moving toward is simply another way of saying, I am not convinced that there's enough pressure that warrants the move. So I will put on more pressure.
Well, no, there's enough pressure.
Obviously not. Obviously not. Or we would not be having this conversation. You would have moved. You would have changed. So obviously not. So obviously you're going to make more. Yes. Because obviously you're saying there's not enough pressure to be spit out from between the fingers yet. So you will apply more pressure.
Oh, boy.
So here it comes. You're already creating it. It's coming down the pike, as you say. A nice additional avalanche. Put more weight, more rocks, more mountains on your shoulders until there is more pressure. Maybe it will be enough. I don't know. We'll see in our next conversation whether even that much more pressure is not yet still enough pressure for you to move, to change, to be who you are. We will see exactly just how much pressure you can take.
Stop it.
That is something you are saying to yourself.
I know.
Well,
I know it's very true.
Move out of the way. If you are standing at the base of a mountain and there is an avalanche heading your way, move out of the way.
Well, that's what I'm feeling, too. It's just,
then
get out of there.
Move.
Yeah.
Move, move, move. Because, believe me, we love you so much, we will do our best to throw all of our weight into helping you create more pressure. Because we know that eventually it will be enough, and we want you to get to that point as fast as you possibly can, but we can only in a sense, get to that point together as fast as you are willing to use the pressure that's there to move.
I know. I guess I just want to trust that when I don't know where to turn, if I do make a quick getaway, that my guides will be there to point me in another direction.
It's not a getaway, you see. That's the point. That's why you're creating this to be a problem. You think it's a getaway instead of a going toward. Mm-hmm. You are becoming you. You're not getting away from anything. Stop looking at it in the negative context. You are becoming more you. You are being more you. Not getting away from anything.
Yeah, it's just, I guess I just don't have that faith.
I understand, but that's all right.
Because
this is where you want to be. Right now, this is where you want to be. Admit it.
No.
No, yes. Admit it.
No.
Because this is where you are.
Absolutely not.
Well, all right, then you're going to stay here for a while.
I'm in spiritual slumber.
You're going to stay here for a while. Wait a minute. One moment.
I know. All right.
You know the story about the straw. Don't break. Move. Or you will break.
I know, I feel it.
And then you'll have to put the pieces back together. Move while you're whole.
Thank you very much.
Not at this timing. At this timing. For a variety of reasons, we once again extend to you our deep appreciation. You may, not will, you may experience a little shake this month of your time. You may experience a little shake this month of your time. Ride it out. Our unconditional love to you all. A fond and exciting good day. How did it go? Thank you all for being here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you again. Have a good night. Thanks. Welcome.